Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Donald Fletcher. I go by Don, and I've been invited today to speak a little bit about the Smith-Kettlewell Eye Research Institute, which I am delighted to do so. I think very fondly of this establishment, and I've had many wonderful years here. I'm a medical school graduate from Canada, Alberta, Canada. I did ophthalmology surgery training in Saskatchewan, Canada. At the end of that period of time, I enjoyed retinal disease surgery and treating retinal diseases, but I was exceedingly frustrated by how many retinal diseases couldn't be addressed really by the current state of medical knowledge in 1986. And I found myself, along with all other retina doctors, telling patients frequently, "I'm sorry, that's all we can do for you." And it bothered me that I wasn't in any way, shape, or form giving patients any ideas about what they could do with a life that was turned upside down by macular degeneration or diabetic retinopathy and other such conditions. And I'd heard about Dr. August Kohlenbrander that was practicing in San Francisco. And so I made contact with Dr. Kohlenbrander, and he put me in touch with Dr. Art Jampolsky. And I thought it might be worthwhile doing one more year of training. And we decided together, the three, Art, Gus, and myself, that I'd spend a year learning about low vision rehabilitation. At that point in time, there was very little work going on in the whole field of ophthalmology with vision rehabilitation. And so I spent a year learning the clinical side of vision rehabilitation from Gus and the research side of vision rehabilitation from Art. So Arjun Polsky and Gus Kohlenbrander gave me an introduction in 1986, 1987 that defined the rest of my career, because I decided that there were lots of retinal surgeons and general ophthalmologists, but there were very few people interested in clinical and research work in low vision rehabilitation. So since 1986, right up till the current time, I've been involved in low vision rehabilitation. I had a wonderful career. And over that period of time, I've been involved with Smith-Kettlewell, and most of my research collaborations have been here with the wonderful people at Smith-Kettlewell. The PhDs, which I will admit are much brighter than I am, I'm just a regular MD, the PhDs here look at things very differently. And so when I give some clinical folklore wisdom about the way things should be done, they'll often say, "Do you have any numbers to prove that and establish that?" And it's been fun to have research collaborators that hold me to the task of, why do you assume that's true? What evidence do you have for it? For example, tomorrow we have a meeting that'll be the 19th annual Smith-Kettlewell Irish Institute Low Vision Rehabilitation Study Group. And so we bring together researchers and clinicians from all over the world, and we have an informal 2-day discussion of problems that clinicians are having and potential solutions that researchers could come up with. The discussion came up, one of the researchers here, Kate, said, I think that people with central visual field problems can have mobility issues, and it's not just people with peripheral constrictions of the visual field. To have a mobility problem is actually not the case, and many people with full peripheral fields and only central vision loss have issues of orientation and mobility. So as we talked about this and went back and forth with this, I said, okay, if we're willing to look at this, I'll start gathering some data. And we used a questionnaire that is designed to unearth mobility problems in glaucoma patients, but I used it just with patients with macular degeneration. I'll collect data, work with my patients, and then these bright PhDs at Smith-Kettlewell will help me massage it and make sense out of it. And we just submitted a paper on this data that I collected over 100 patients with macular degeneration. I ended up referring, I think, 25 or 30 patients out of the 115 I've seen so far for services of an orientation mobility specialist. And I wouldn't have done that if I hadn't been asked the question by the researcher, do you think there's a problem here? So there's been many people over the years that I've enjoyed working with on different aspects of vision loss and how people function when they have lost the macula, the center of fixation in their eyes, when they have to use eccentric fixation. So the clinical patients of Dr. Kohlenbrander and myself have participated here with many of the researchers on ways and means to understand how best to compensate with compensatory eye movements when you have a central field loss, a central disruption of the retina, of the macula. Dr. Brander was probably one of the very first doctors to clinically do low vision work, and so I learned the basics from him. But then over the ensuing 37, 38 years, we've continued to ask questions to try to improve what we do. And this is, I think, one of the shining examples of what Smith-Kettlewell does very well. It's got to focus on people that have problems that cannot be cured. How do we help people to use what they've got most effectively? It's a very unique position that Smith-Kettlewell has, and I don't know of anybody else that does it like Smith-Kettlewell does, focuses on the unfortunate people that are left with a partial sight situation.